Hey legends, welcome along to Sceammeupbotty. I'm your host, Rodney Stewart, and we're getting into Star Trek the original series once more with a little chat about Season 1, Episode 14, called Balance of Terror. This is a fantastic episode that I can't pass it up. Anytime this episode happens to be on TV, I'll check it out. I'll never get fed up with these sorts of episodes. It's just It's a great meeting of two minds, essentially, in this episode between Captain Kirk and the Romulan commander, played by Mark Leonard, who is most famously known as playing Sarek, Spock's father, in the original series as well as the animated series and a couple of the movies he was in as well, along with a small handful of episodes in The Next Generation. So a guy that went on to be a popular face in Star Trek. But in this episode, he plays a Romulan commander that Kirk goes up against. And a lot like the Wrath of Khan, these two enemies are never technically on screen at the one time. They're always on a different ship. They're never actually properly face to face unless it's over the view screen of the Enterprise, and that only happens at the end of this episode. But a fantastic episode. At the beginning, the Enterprise is investigating a loss of communication with a line of outposts near the Romulan neutral zone, and it was formed under the terms of the peace treaty that ended their Romulan war about a century earlier. Because there were no visual communications at the time, the humans and the Romulans don't actually know what each other looks like. You know, any of the fights were in early ships with crude nuclear weapons, but they never managed to actually see each other face to face throughout the whole war. But now that there's a fragile peace between the Romulan Empire and the Federation, there is this neutral zone in space where neither one of the factions is allowed to cross over. But something's happening with these outposts, and the Enterprise is dispatched to go check out what's happening. At the beginning of the episode, also, Kirk officiates at a wedding of Lieutenant Tomlinson and Ensign Martin. Just as they're about to get underway with the wedding ceremony, Outpost 4 comes under attack and Enterprise goes to high alert. They head off. Obviously, the wedding ceremony doesn't happen. Depending on your point of view, that could be a good thing or a bad thing. But I don't even want to go down that path with these podcasts. But anyway, Outpost 4, Enterprise comes to their aid, contacts the base commander, a guy called Hansen, who advises that he's the only survivor of an attack by an unknown enemy. As they're speaking across the view screen, the enemy ship reappears, fires, and disappears. The shot destroys the outpost, kills Hansen. The ship's sensors locate the attacking ship, which remains invisible. This episode introduces not just the Romulans, but it also introduces the concept of the cloaking device. And yes, the ship is equipped with the cloaking device. Kirk surmises that the attacker, obviously, I tend to jump ahead in my notes. I'll start talking about something and realise that I haven't put that down in the notes till later on. But it is what it is. A coded message from the intruder provides a new view through one of its internal cameras. And this has happened because one of the Romulan officers was trying to send a message back to Romulus to update their high command and what's going on, but it gives the Enterprise a chance to actually see inside the ship of the Romulans, which reveals their appearances like Vulcans. Lieutenant Styles, the navigator of the Enterprise, son of a service family that lost several members in the Earth-Romulan War, begins to question the loyalty of the Enterprise's first officer, Spock. And this is one of these genius episodes of Star Trek where, that the people with new Star Trek have complained that it's almost too political at times, but, you just have to look at Star Trek, the classic shows, Next Generation, all that sort of stuff. They always had a genius way of working in a lot of the political sort of things in there, and this one here deals with racism very swiftly in the episode, and it's with this guy. He's kind of turning on Spock slightly, and he's giving him the evil eye on the bridge, and Kirk realizes this, and actually says to him, like, just leave any of your racist ways in your quarters. There's no place for them on the bridge. So makes that clear distinction very quick in the episode within a few lines. So they always did throw in a bit of that stuff throughout the classic stuff as well. Love it. During the discussion of the Romulan ship's capabilities, Styles suggests that the Enterprise attack before it can reach the neutral zone. Spock agrees with him, and he reasons that if the Romulans are in fact an offshoot of the Vulcan species and have retained their philosophy of the Vulcans' ancient past, they would take advantage of any perceived weakness. There's a cat and mouse game throughout the majority of the episode. The Enterprise is faster, more manoeuvrable than the Romulan ship, but the ship has the cloaking device, and it has this really destructive plasma torpedoes that it's taking out these outposts with. Like, it's just obliterating like full asteroids within a couple of shots. Even though the Enterprise is quicker, more manoeuvrable, it's highly outgunned in this episode as well. The range of these torpedoes is limited. Firing one requires so much power that the ship must decloak first. So that's something that they kept for the vast majority of Star Trek. Any of the ships that were able to cloak always had to uncloak before they could fire. After several attacks, the Romulans are almost beaten. They plant a nuclear weapon and some debris that they've chucked out of the ship to try and trick the Enterprise into thinking that they've been destroyed. The vast majority of this episode is the slow chase between the two. Enterprise isn't catching up with them, but it's matching their speed and their manoeuvres. So Kirk is trying to trick the commander and the crew of the Romulan ship into thinking that it's actually a sensor echo and not the Enterprise, because of the power drain in their cloaking device. Whenever the Romulans cloak, it almost masks the Enterprise presence as well, even though it doesn't have a cloak. It's not showing up in the sensors properly because of the power drain on the Romulan ship. So it's a very, very interesting episode, and it delves into the, almost like those old war movies where, the submarine commanders would be going head to head with each other, and then they'd be running silent, and building up a bit of the tension that way. We do get that in this episode as well. Very, very well done. Kirk orders a point-blank phaser shot that detonates the device. As I say, the Romulans trying to trick Enterprise into thinking they've been destroyed. They've tried this trick twice. This is the second time. They jettison some debris, but Spock is, well ahead of the game here, and he's like, it's part of a ship's hull. Lists a whole range of stuff that it is. But he says there's not enough there to, there's not enough mass. It's ship parts, but there's not enough there to be an actual full ship. So they know the Romulans are trying to throw them off the scent. The first time they do it, they actually throw one of their dead out along with it. And the second time, they have this nuclear device. in there as well. Enterprise realizes at the last second, and Kirk orders the phasers to fire to destroy it, but they're very, very close. Enterprise gets not disabled, but gets damaged, and a lot of casualties on board. So yes, a lot of the phaser crew are incapacitated, requiring that Styles fill in. His first job on a starship was phaser control, so he heads down to help out. Kirk orders operations to work at minimal power to exaggerate the apparent damage and lure the Romulans in for a kill shot. At this stage, they're still on the Federation side of the neutral zone. They haven't got through yet, but Kirk decides to send a message to Starfleet saying, it's my judgment, we're going to have to follow these guys in. So it's one of these situations where the Romulans have come out, crossed the neutral zone, act of war, attacked the Federation, destroyed a lot of outposts and whatnot. But if Enterprise follows them into the neutral zone, then it's officially, declaring war, and last thing that they want to do. So yes, they turn down all the ship's operations to try and make it look like the Enterprise is damaged worse than it actually is, and lure the Romulans back to get a kill shot on them. Although the commander of the Romulan ship suspects Kirk's trap, a member of the command crew pressures him into attacking. When the Romulan ship decloaks to launch a torpedo, Kirk tries to spring his trap, but a coolant leak in the phaser control room incapacitates Styles and Tomlinson. And there was another bit of a racist attack on Spock from Styles in the phaser room. Spock was down to check out that everything was going well, that they were sorted out, ready to go, and Styles is like, we can do this without you, and pretty much just cold shoulders until he gets out of the phaser control room. But the coolant leak happens, and Spock hears through the ship's intercoms that Kirk is calling for the phasers to be fired. Nothing's happening. He's screaming over the comm, what's going on? Hurry up, fire phasers, fire phasers. So Spock runs back in. Styles is unconscious on the ground, and Spock fires the phasers, and not destroying the Romulan ship, but crippling it. It's on its last legs at this point. Spock rescues Styles, drags Styles and Tomlinson out. Kirk heals the Romulan ship, and at the last communications, directly at his opponent, offering to beam him aboard the survivors, as the Federation does. It's like, you know what, you're doomed, but we're going to help you anyway. Beam over. But the Romulan commander tells Kirk that he regrets having met Kirk in combat like this, and that they're one of a kind, and in a different reality he could have called him a friend. He declines Kirk's offer to take his crew off the ship, telling the captain that it's not the Romulan way. They're creatures of duty, and there's only one duty left to perform, and it is to destroy the ship, and not to let it fall into enemy hands, essentially. So he sets a self-destruct, destroys the ship, and at the end of the episode, we get Styles in sickbay coming round. Kirk comes in and checks out, everybody's okay, Spock, how you doing? And Spock's like, okay, Captain. And Styles has to, eat his own words in a major way, because after everything that he did on Spock throughout the episode, Spock helped him, despite him being a racist little idiot throughout the episode a couple of different times, and he's really thanking Spock for helping him. But Spock's like, just help in Spock's way, not to get emotional about anything. He's just like, I saved an officer that the Enterprise needs. I've got no more feelings about it than that. And McCoy fills Kirk in that the only fatality that the Enterprise suffered throughout the whole ordeal was Lieutenant Tomlinson, who was supposed to get married at the beginning of the episode, and that his wife to be is in the chapel. And at the end of the episode, Kirk goes to offer comfort to Ensign Martin. He's like, it never makes any sort of sense that this sort of thing happens. We need to believe that there's a reason for it. It's a wonderful, wonderful episode, and I do have to say, the best part of this episode was Mark Leonard as the Romulan commander. He is a very, how would you describe him? He's one of these characters that has a heck of a lot of depth in him. He has a mission to complete, but he's feeling the weight of time on his shoulders, and what are we going to do here? Are we going to, what sort of gift are we giving the Romulan Empire, like another war sort of a thing? And he's, at one point, he says to his centurion, I find myself hoping for destruction before we can return home. So he's a very, very well-rounded, deep character in the episode, and you see a few times in there where he's not questioning what he needs to do, but he's really feeling the weight and the impact of his choices in the episode. So wonderful, wonderful episode. As I say, I can never pass this one up. What else can be said about it? Let me see what I've looked up some stuff online about it here. Star Trek Compendium stated the episode was essentially a science fiction version of the submarine film The Enemy Below. That's exactly what I said earlier on in this episode. It was like the submarine movies. Yes. What else we got here? The soundtrack cue in the chapel, played during the opening scene of the wedding ceremony, is an instrumental medley from the 19th century English song Long Long Ago by Thomas Haynes Bailey, and the bridal chorus by Richard Wagner. The term photon torpedo was only invented in a later episode arena, but the same effect was used in this one, although still called phaser. On September 16th, 2006, Balance of Terror became the first digitally remastered Star Trek episode, featuring enhanced and new visual effects, computer-generated CGI spaceships, and the high-definition format. That's the version that you're going to get now on pretty much any DVD release or Netflix, if it's streaming anywhere, as the updated versions of Star Trek. And there is a part in this episode where the two ships fly through the tail of a comet, which is amazing looking. All the core Star Trek regular background players appear in this episode. Eddie Paskey, Lieutenant Lizzie, and William Shatner standing, Frank Devancy, William Blackburn, a lot of the a lot of the stand-ins for the actual main cast were on screen as well for parts of this episode. So it's there's a lot of stuff to check out on there. I didn't realise that sort of stuff. And, you go back and look at the episode now, you might actually see the like body doubles and whatnot. You'll sort of see them on screen together with the persons that they double normally. This episode is frequently praised by critics and regularly appears in lists of the best episodes of Star Trek. 100%, I agree with that there. As I say, can't pass this one up. It's one of the best in the entire run of the series. Yes, I absolutely love it. Fantastic episode. And again, Mark Leonard is flipping phenomenal in this episode, so I'm pretty damn sure that's why he was brought back to play Sarek and have that giant career of Star Trek. I think it's all down to the strength of his depiction of this Romulan commander in this episode. Wonderful, absolutely fantastic. If you haven't seen this episode, definitely go and check it out as soon as you can. Guys, that's going to do it tonight for this episode. I'm running a little bit late here. I want to get it uploaded for 9 PM GMT. We're going to be trying to do this show, and I'm always kind of weirded out by actually saying it on the show that we're going to try and throw it up daily for a while now, because we're that far behind on a lot of the other shows. Like, we're doing Discovery and season 2 of Picard, as well as the original series here, and it's just like, I've fallen so far behind, it is not even funny anymore. Anyway, guys, if you did enjoy this episode, please give it, rate and review it, share it along to your social media, help me get this show out there for more pop culture fans like you and me to check out. And hopefully we get some guests on here to help me out. So we'll see what happens. It's early days yet, but I'm loving it. Anyway, guys, stay safe, and I'll talk to you in the next episode. This has been a production of Coins Age Media. Thank you so much